Right, so let's start. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Punya Dilip, full-time MBA student and a member of the MBA Social Impact Club. So, just a few housekeeping rules before we officially begin this session. Please keep your mic in mute during the session to minimize any distractions. And we will have a Q&A interactive session right after Elham has given her speech. So you can keep your question to the end and you may type the question in the chat, but we strongly encourage you to raise your hand and come to the mic for the questions, to keep it more engaging and interactive. So let's begin. It's a great pleasure to welcome our guest speaker, Elham Fardad, for today's session in pursuit of social impact. Elham is an alumnus of our exact MBA program, completing her MBA in 2004. She has over 25 years of experience in senior leadership roles in various multinationals such as GE, News Corp, and EY. She advises leadership team on strategy, operations, and talent. Elham is also a member of various boards, and she was also selected as the finalist for the Director of the Year Award 2020 by the Institute of Directors Award. Congrats on that, Elham. And most importantly, she's the CEO and founder of Migrant Leaders, a charitable organization. Migrant Leaders was recently mentioned in The Guardian as an example of a charity that is making a difference by inspiring disadvantaged young migrants to fulfill their potential. Inspired by her passion for social service, we reached out to her to understand more about migrant leaders and its social impact. We are very excited to hear more about this, Elham, and over to you.
Thank you so much for that fantastic and generous introduction. Um, I'll do a 60-second pitch. So my name is Elham Fardad. In terms of my background, as was mentioned, I've spent 23 years as a finance and transformation director in GE, News Corp, and Ernst& Young. But that doesn't tell you much about my journey. Life hasn't always been this good. When I was 18, I was just a young migrant in Britain with a younger brother, and my family had broken up, and we had a lot of financial and visa challenges and little know how or connections in the UK. So my problem really was that at 18, I didn't have funding to go to university. And even though I had saved £4,000 in the previous couple of years teaching maths and selling perfumes and things like that, given our financial situation, I decided that I would give the £4,000 to my mum, who I decided needs it more than me. And I was once again penniless. So I camped outside Birmingham City Council offices for 3 days in a row until I could convince someone to accept me as a home student so that I could go to university. And luckily, and I always send my blessings to them, they supported me and I went to study accounting and finance at university. It was really because of that single opportunity and through good education that a few years later, having qualified as an accountant, I landed my first big break, which was as a financial controller at GE. That really told me early on that young people need opportunities. They need someone to believe in them, and that a single opportunity can change lives. So I went on and spent the next 23 years progressing rapidly at GE. I progressed, got a couple of promotions, was nominated for the Advanced Financial Leadership Program, which meant really world-class training across GE divisions, and went on to have great early responsibility in GE Energy. I moved on to be a finance director in News Corp, and then the last 10 years in finance and business transformation advisory in client services at EY. About 3 years ago, back in 2017, is when I was pretty satisfied with what I had done so far. I really felt that Some of the early challenges I had as a young migrant had been overcome. I was resilient enough to go through these challenges, and I felt satisfied that I was mentoring a handful of ethnic minorities at EY, and I thought I was doing all right. And then something triggered my social impact journey, and this was the Parker Review. And I'm going to ask Chris to kindly put up the slides that we're going to share with you. While Chris does that, I wanted to tell you something about our motivation for doing things. Often I hear from young people who are very aspirational, they're ambitious, capable, talented, and hardworking. They sometimes ask me, how can I be a brilliant leader? How can I succeed? How can I have huge social impact? How can I make my first million or 10 by the time I'm 30? I always say to them, that's the wrong motivation. Although I admire those ambitions and I share some of those ambitions, I think it's really important to start with solving people's problems. So if we move to the slide that says the problem, this is the problem that I found myself passionate about. Back in 2017, a report was published called the Parker Review. This was the report in the UK by Sir John Parker, which looked at ethnic diversity in UK boardrooms. And I think for this audience, it's particularly interesting to know that that report back in 2017 found that only 2% of UK boardrooms are citizens of colour. And that includes the non-executives. So if you exclude the non-executives, that percentage will be significantly lower. I then mapped out that data on a spreadsheet and looked at the background of those directors and found that 1.3% only were migrants, and almost all of those migrant directors had been privately educated. In that moment, I realized, my goodness, so someone from my background who went to status schools in Birmingham shouldn't ever make that level. And that's not good enough, because I know there are many, many talented, hardworking people in all sorts of diverse groups. So that didn't feel right, and I knew that I must put a big effort into social impact, and that a good place to start would be the underrepresented young first and second generation migrants. And that's where the charity Migrant Leaders was born. I registered this as a charitable foundation in the UK. And where we are today with Migrant Leaders, if we can slide to the program page. Perfect, our vision, just where it said our vision. Perfect, thank you. So where we are today, 3 years on with the Migrant Leaders Development Program, is that we take applicants between the age of 16 and 25 who can apply on our website, migrantleaders.org.uk. They can apply on our website, and when they get into the program, what they get is one of our 510 senior mentors from 95 FTSE 100 and leading firms. They get matched a mentor who's coming from the technical field and the company and sector that the mentee aspires towards. And we are very proud of the way we match our mentees and mentors, because we take account of what we learned during the interview process and application process, what we learned about the mentees and where their personal capabilities and needs are, as well as their technical and sector aspirations. We match them to the mentor, and some fantastic outcomes and case studies have emerged as a result of those great mentoring experiences. Then our second element of our development program is our corporate partnerships, which are with several companies, including Anglo American, Smith & Nephew, and Kantar. And We are now in our third year of partnerships with those companies, and as a result, we've delivered multiple joint workshops, training, conferences, virtual internships, and huge opportunities. Really incredible outcomes have emerged as a result of the program for the mentees who've joined Migrant Leaders. We also have further training and webinars that we deliver in order to unblock some of the challenges that the young mentees have around access to education or social capital, employability, presentation skills, all sorts of very specific things to unblock every root cause of disadvantage they might have, so that by the time they graduate from university, they are ready to hit the ground running and really succeed and accelerate their progression in big firms. So that is where our program is. Just for your information, you can find all this, the impact report that you're seeing now, as well as how to apply to our program as a candidate on our website, migrantleaders.org.uk. And particularly for UK-based students, those who are based in the UK or are studying in the UK and intend to settle in the UK or work in the UK, I really would encourage you to consider applying to our program for the life-changing opportunities and training that this gives you. So this is the program that I launched 3 years ago, and today we have 510 senior mentors from 95 big firms and the opportunities that it provides you. And this journey didn't end. The social impact journey that I just described kind of moved forward during coronavirus. And that's where my advice to everyone is always start with whose problem you're going to solve. Whose problem do you feel passionate about? Because during coronavirus, it occurred to me that actually in the primary schools and secondary schools in the UK, the attainment gap is widening because of coronavirus. And as a result, we launched a program called Mentee Mentor. And basically, once you become a Migrant Leaders mentee, and once you're at university and settled down in your second or third year, you could apply to join our charity's Mentee Mentor program, whereby you get paid for mentoring and tutoring disadvantaged primary school kids in the UK. And that's a wonderful program that I wished was available when I was at university, so that I can use my talents teaching primary school kids, particularly disadvantaged ones, get paid for it, and at the same time have social impact. On that journey, we then discovered that actually in the UK, some of the head teachers I work with were telling me that in disadvantaged areas in the UK, often more than half of the households don't have computers. So how are they going to access remote learning? How are they going to access additional opportunities such as Mentee Mentor? So from that problem, our charity's scheme called EduTech Kids was born, which we launched a couple of months ago. And I am currently campaigning, talking to all my corporate contacts in order to get donations of computers and equipment, which we then distribute to the schools that we've partnered with, so that it goes as donations to the households who are most disadvantaged among their pupils. So really, in a nutshell, that has been my social impact journey over the last 3 years. And I really would like to be able to say, watch this space, because that journey is going to continue really in 3 ways. One is deepening the support that we give to young people in terms of social mobility, youth development, and ethnic minorities in particular. And we are also scaling it all up. And we'll be launching further programs to address some of the related problems that I'm particularly passionate about. So with that in mind, we can stop sharing the slides, and I really would encourage any questions, comments, or challenges, either about what you've heard or about your own situation, education, and employment prospects that you would want to ask me and anyone else on the panel.
Hi, Elham. Tribeni here. Hello, can I?
Hello. Hello, Tribeni.
Hello. Very promising to hear your journey, and having spoken to you on another day, it's extremely inspirational. So thank you for giving the full picture. I'm sure in terms of this 3 years, while in terms of what you have achieved is tremendous, it must not have been without challenges. So it would be good for if you could share 2 or 3 challenges that really challenged you and maybe even made you doubt in terms of what you were trying to achieve and how you overcame them.
Very, very good question. If you do the maths, if you have high aspirations, on average, you're going to face more challenges. So challenges are never a bad sign. It's a good sign. Definitely the first challenge I hit was the sheer physical stamina this journey needed, because the first couple of years I was still working full-time at EY, and I have 2 children who I'm very hands-on with. So for a couple of years, my life was 3 shifts, EY clients by day, kids by evening, and then migrant leaders at night from 9 p.m. till 2 or 3 in the morning. And for a couple of years, it was like that. And I can honestly say I remember exactly which family holiday I designed and wrote up, which document and which program. And, literally family holidays, weekends, evenings, all became about migrant leaders. I think what I did well in that situation is not doubting myself. My advice would be, if you have a vision and a sense of purpose, and you just got to do it, find ways of doing it and getting there. My solution was that I involved my family. I told them all about this social purpose. I told my relatives, I told my children. As a result, my children are now volunteering for the charity. My son, who's 12 and loves tech, is working with me on EduTech Kids, and he catalogs the equipment coming in and advises me on IT equipment that kids his age need. And, I involve them. And as a result, the outcome feels collaborative and is a good journey for everybody. But above all, I would say, be resilient. Don't doubt yourself. If you feel it in your guts that this is your purpose, keep going.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And so are you still doing your EY job along with what you're doing for migrant leaders?
I left EY back in 2019 because I realized that, my goodness, migrant leaders is growing at such a gradient that to do the charity justice and deepen the programs and its impact, as well as scaling it up, it really needs me full time. So I decided to leave EY, and I must say that came as a surprise to all my family, but it didn't come as a surprise to me. I knew I've got to do that, even though I loved EY and I loved the work that we did and I loved the people. So it was hard, but migrant leaders is my baby. And and I'm so glad I did that, because it's got the charity to the stage it has. And always remember that your career, whatever decision you make, feels very permanent. But remember, top careers are a marathon, not a sprint. They are, you have a 30, 40, 50-year career in reality. And of course, make decisions wisely, but on that journey, you can only make the decisions with the information and criteria you have at the time. And for me, that was the right decision at the time.
Thank you.
Oh, really, really inspiring. Yeah, we have like a couple of people who have questions to ask. Shinain, would you like to go first? I hope I'm, yeah, spelling
Yeah,
it right. Yeah.
hello. Thank you, Aham and Dilip for this. Okay, so my question really is, what would you say is mainly responsible, or what is the largest contributor to the kind of data you had showed us earlier on why migrants are not being represented as much at the top management level in the country? Would you really put it down just to the um, disparity in economic resources available to such people, or is there really more to it? Can one say the opportunities are available fairly to
Yeah.
all?
Really good, really good perspective that you're sharing, Shanae. And it's a perspective, as you can imagine, very close to my heart because of mine is a migrant journey. Um, so let's be clear, it's not because of the disparity that we see in corporate diversity and in particular in migrants as an underrepresented group is not because of lack of talent, it's not because of lack of hard work, it's not even because of lack of qualifications in migrants. They do have those things. And in fact, if anything, um, the migrant population among ethnic minorities are super motivated because I find first and second generation migrants always want to prove themselves in a country and they're here in order to succeed. So they are particularly motivated and ambitious. It's also not because of lack of opportunities, because the opportunities and the jobs are out there and always will be. Yes, there will be ups and downs in the economy, but there are opportunities out there. So it does make me wonder, why is it not really happening? I think the balancing number, I think what is missing is lack of connections and focused training, which is what Migrant Leaders is trying to address. You know, in solving any problem, it's really important to go after the root causes, the top 3 root causes. And the Migrant Leaders Development Program has been designed exactly for that. That's why I've put exactly those components in the program, which I know are the root causes of young migrants not fulfilling their potential in the UK. And connections, super important. I feel sad a little bit that when I was younger, I didn't have those connections. If I had those connections, my career trajectory would have been better, and I would have certainly suffered less, and I would have doubted myself less. You know, there were some pretty tough moments in my journey. It's not all, the journey I described to you in my corporate career wasn't a linear line. There were moments when I doubted myself. There were moments when I thought, is it all worth it? There were moments that I asked myself, how much more should I suffer? It doesn't need to be that way, because if we support underrepresented groups, whether it's ethnic minorities, women, migrants, LGBT, and other underrepresented groups, if we support them, I can tell you, they will feel more brave in taking on their ambitions, and they will face enough challenges that will build them anyway. So they don't need to suffer unnecessarily.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Elham. That's so important to build that support network, I think I don't know where I'd be without my support network. So I love the work that you're doing. I think we have a question from Yatuk. Yatuk, do you want to come on the mic?
Yes, hi.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for sharing. It's really inspiring, and I'm keen on doing the social impact because I'm from Hong Kong, so some of my friends is thinking to work here in the UK. But yeah, to be honest, what we find that the challenge is pretty hard to find a job here. So I'm lucky because I can study MBA at Warwick, but some of my friends, like without the education as a stepping stone, it's quite hard for them to find a job, given that we already don't need the sponsorship because we are allowed to work in the UK. And when we have a look of, for example, like the director grade, you seldom have people in Asia which is not born in foreign countries. So there's some people with a very good education, maybe they study in Oxford, Cambridge, or Harvard, with a very good school, with a very good education, and they are like the British born Chinese, so they grow up here. They can work in a big firm or some director grade, but in general, even for us, like because our language is not native in English, and then maybe we don't have a deep understanding in the society, in the culture things. So probably we are kept in the manager grade. Maybe we can find a job, but for example, for further promotion, it's quite hard. So this not necessarily a question, but it's something we find right now, like a challenge we have. It's like to migrate to the UK or to work in the UK or live in the UK is quite difficult. And this is something like I'm keen on the social impact. This is something I would like to change. So I would like to ask in the, for example, in the Migrate Leader program, is it any way, because I'm over 25, so is it any way I can like participate in, because I really want to explore more in this area? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I really empathize with your comments, because what you described is a very typical migrant student challenge. My advice would be don't worry too much about your disadvantages, because any candidate for any particular job opportunity, all candidates, no matter where they come from, whether they're British or not, whether they're privileged or not, whatever background they come from, there'll be good things about that candidate and some disadvantages about that candidate. So let's not get too worried about the negative points about our CV or the negative things that we need a sponsorship from the employer from the visa situation, because there'll be positive things. Highlight the positive things about you, the skills that you bring, and why you are the best person for that particular job. Do not give up. And above all, job search and finding the jobs is about connections. I can't believe I'm saying this, because 20 years ago, I would have been telling you, if you're talented and hardworking and motivated and you have integrity, you will fulfill your potential. And it's true. You do need to be those things. But my goodness, I think, at least half of it is connections.
Okay.
I now realize, and that's why Migrant Leaders is so powerful, because the program gets you ready, gives you all those skills and training, but above all connects you to the best opportunities and corporate executives. So don't give up. Keep going. Think about your objectives. If you're a student doing your full-time MBA in a university in the UK now, and I don't know if you would be allowed to work for a year or two afterwards, or whether you need a sponsorship for that.
We don't need to, we are allowed to work here.
So that is a huge advantage. I didn't have work permit to begin with when I graduated.
Okay.
So it was another problem, another story for another time. But if you do have work permit, then my God, go for it. And sometimes you might not go for exactly the job you wanted. Of course, apply, Warwick MBA, right? Apply for all the top firms. Work out in each sector that you're interested in, whether it's investment banking, management consulting, PE houses, whatever sector, industry, whatever sector you're interested in. Work out who are the top 5 employers and do a blueprint application for that sector and the type of role you're applying. Once you put all your 80% of your efforts into that first application, then replicate that application across the other jobs in that sector, so that you're preparing sector-centric applications. And the first one should take 80% of your effort because you're simply repeating or adjusting it slightly for the others. But this shouldn't come as a surprise to you in terms of advice. The other thing is, you might find that because of the bad job market, you apply to all the big firms, and simply for every job there are 2,000 people knocking on the door, and let's say you don't get any job interviews at all. Don't be disappointed. When I graduated in 1994, I think I applied to 350, 400 jobs, and I collected all the rejection letters. I called every one of them, and very few were resourced, even though they were big companies. Very few were even willing to give feedback on why I had a rejection. You've got to keep going. Then I realized, okay, given the rejection rate, maybe I can't initially get jobs in big companies. So I thought, okay, I'll go for SMEs, but only if I have something to learn from them. I remember vividly a small firm of accountants in Birmingham offered me a job. The salary was £6,000 a year, which even at that time was really bad. But I would have accepted that if I felt that that job would teach me things. But I remember the partner was saying, look, you'll be staying in the office. I'll be off to see clients, but I expect you to run the office and manage the administration. And I said, so who'll be teaching me? And I worked out that even though at the time, after months of searching, that was my first job offer. And it was a hard decision to reject that offer. And I did not reject it because of the money. I rejected it because I would not have learned anything in that job. The trajectory from that job or the transferable skills, what was I going to put on the CV for the next job? So if you find yourself in a situation where you don't get the jobs that you apply for in the big firms, then you go for the next best thing. But think about what those skills, team, and learning you can put on your CV for the next job.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Yatok. So I have a question in the chat. This is a difficult one, Elham. Hi, Elham. How much do you think systemic racism in the UK contributes to the lack of citizen directors of colour? This is from Jim.
Very good question. It's a political one as well. That's why you rightly identified that it's a difficult question. On the one hand, yes, there is systemic racism. In some sectors, more than others. But on the other hand, as an ethnic minority, do I want to point the finger, or do I want to hold the mirror and see what I can improve in myself? So I personally believe pointing the finger is not helpful. Holding people accountable is helpful, and that's very different from pointing the finger. Governments, shareholders, investors, customers, employees, all the stakeholder groups these days are holding leaders accountable. So my advice to candidates would be, don't worry too much about systemic racism. Focus on holding the mirror against yourself, really fine-tuning all your skill sets, your sense of purpose, your motivation, your hard work, your technical skills. Build yourself up. Constantly hold that mirror against yourself and keep improving yourself. And build relationships. And build relationships. You'll be surprised who will be your ally and a sponsor. Some of my best allies, supporters, and sponsors were middle-aged white men. So please don't go into companies and relationships and interviews having pre-made conceptions about people. Always go in there to find win-win scenarios with others. You'll be surprised who is willing to support you.
Great. I hope did that answer your question, Jim? Thumbs up. We have next on. Yes, thank you. Okay, Brilliant. So next on the list we have Jean. Jean, would you like to come on the mic?
Hi, Shubi. Hi, Elham. Thank you very much for your presentation and for talking to us about your project. I was wondering, I had a more specific question about your program, and I was wondering if your program was tackling issues for migrants who came from a refugee or asylum seeker background.
Yes. The program initially started for first and second generation migrants, including asylum seekers and refugees. I personally deal with those cases myself because I'd like to think I understand their challenges. Coming from Iran, a country with political unrest, I understand the scenarios that asylum seekers and refugees come from and what they're experiencing. So yes, we accept asylum seekers, refugees, first, second generation migrants, as well as those who are not from a migrant background. Because about 2 years ago, I realized that actually in the UK, disadvantage goes beyond first and second generation migrants. So we opened up the program to white British backgrounds from disadvantaged backgrounds as well. As a result, 4% of our mentees are white British disadvantaged backgrounds. To answer an earlier question, Migrant Leaders Program is for 16 to 25-year-olds. So if you are over 25, unfortunately, you don't qualify to apply. However, I would encourage you to follow us on social media because opportunities do come up to connect with us. And also we will be launching an app in a number of months, which will help ethnic minorities of any age for that exact reason, because I'd like us to give those opportunities to everyone.
That's great to know. Thank you, Elham. Thanks.
Sure.
Great. So next we have Kamal. Kamal, do you want to come on the mic?
Hi, Elham. This is Kamal. I'm a current MBA student. Thank you so much for your time today. It's a very inspiring story. I can empathize with you. I've been through a similar journey. So I just want to ask a question about your program. I mean, from my experience, I feel that kids' education has got a lot to do with it. And as you can see yourself, you face that similar challenge. So without a good education, pretty much you've got no hope, so you can't get anywhere. It's just the problem that I have is that I can see that kids from disadvantaged backgrounds, they're already at a disadvantage before they even start on their school journey because of the schools they attend, lack of facilities and resources. And it's not that the teachers are not willing, but unfortunately they don't push them as hard so they can discover their full potential, where, for example, in other privately educated kids, for example, they tend to go on and achieve a lot more, especially if they're from a white background, let's say, for example. It's just this disadvantage, for example. I mean, is there anything that your program does to help towards this? And then the second question that I've got is like for the current, we can call ourselves change makers, us, I mean, the panel that you've got here today, is there anything that that we can do, that we should do to contribute towards this? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I almost feel tears in my eyes because you touched on something I really care about. When I look at where disadvantage starts, it is pretty young, as you alluded to. And in life, you would think all babies are born and then the direction of their life is determined by the facilities, opportunities, advantages, disadvantages that they get. And it does start very early. And I must admit, in the last 3 years, as I was working on migrant leaders, I always felt a little bit uncomfortable in my heart because I knew that maybe 60-70% of one's disadvantage starts in primary school. So it's not a surprise that under our charitable foundation, we've launched Mentee Mentor to try and address some of those disadvantages and digital poverty under the EduTech Kids scheme in our charity. For me, what you said is true about teachers, that they are very much doing their best. To me, teachers are like nurses. They are incredible human beings with amazing superpowers. Teachers and nurses are really incredible creatures. What they do with very little financial reward, really, and the amount of effort they put into their work, they are superhuman beings. They're really doing their best. And I'm glad that at least in some ways, our charity is trying to address the educational attainment gap that starts so early in lives. To answer your question about how you can help, well, certainly those who are between 16 and 25 apply to our program. Those who are over 25, some MBA students might actually be well established with several years work experience in corporates. You could potentially volunteer as mentors. I used to only recruit mentors who are very, very senior, but I recognized as I interview and talk to mentees, some of them need a slightly more relatable mentor. So we now accept mentors with 5 or more years of quality work experience. A bit like the MBA programs, around 5 years experience is the minimum requirement. So you could join as a mentor. Feel free to email me. I'm going to just put my email address and our charity's website in the chat now, just so that everybody can take this down and contact me if they feel there are collaboration opportunities.
That's great. I think Punya and Chris, maybe we can send that out afterwards as well, just in case people don't get a chance to note that down.
Thank you.
Yes, so we'll take note of that, yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kamal. So we have Sarah, who's had her hand up for a while. Hi, Sarah, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you for organizing this, and thank you Elham for sharing your advice and the presentation and everything. It's been really, really insightful. My name is Sarah, and I'm doing a master's in management of information systems at World Business School. And I'll be starting my full-time job in September as a graduate. But then I was wondering, because I am also very keen on making this social impact, and I just wanted to ask what we can do to start building the foundation that will help us to make such positive impacts and contributions to the problems that we are keen to solve in a bigger scale along my career journey, say in like 10 or 15 years, when we can actually can afford to make bigger impact to the society.
Thank you. First of all, big congratulations on getting your graduate position during such difficult economic times. Really, congratulations. I think it's really important to recognize that different phases in life and different phases in careers need different focus. And focus and attention is really important. I would say in the first 2 or 3 years of a graduate position, your absolute focus has to be on creating momentum and succeeding in that role. Because the impression the company gets of you and your chances of promotion within 2 or 3 years really needs that focus. You might have further training or exams to do while you're working, or you might be working for tough clients within that company, tough bosses in that company. Whatever it is, the first graduate job for 2 or 3 years is really tough. So my advice actually would be focus on landing that, focus on doing really well and gaining a good reputation in that company. Somebody recently told me, was asking me, how is life these days since leaving EY? I said it's an array of presentations and talks and presentations and mentoring sessions and talking to people. And he said to me, well, social impact is a social business. Of course, you have to be talking to people, which I love, by the way. And the reason I mentioned this is because that building of your network and reputation is really important. I didn't know this. I didn't know this 20 years ago or 10 years ago even. But doing a good job in the jobs that I took on in industry and in EY, and valuing people, respecting people, collaborating with people, helping people, building my network in the last 25 years is exactly why I've been pretty successful with migrant leaders, because it needed people to follow me, support me, volunteer and help with migrant leaders. So I would say do a great job in your graduate job, build your reputation, get the next promotion, and collaborate with people. And as you build your network and reputation, you will then find what is the social problem that you're passionate about. And then you have all the components of social impact.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your advice.
Thank you.
That's great. I love that. It's the long game, isn't it? You just have to keep your eye on the long game.
Absolutely. I can tell you, really, I have a vision for the next 30 years, even in terms of how I want to spend my time. It's really exhilarating because you realize that you have longer on this earth, God willing, than you think. You could have spent 10, 15, 20 years really working hard in the corporates, in a corporate career, and then you could have spent the next 20 years on social impact. You could go back to the corporates at some point. You know, we're very lucky in life that as long as we're safe and we have a roof over our heads and food on the table and our loved ones are healthy and happy, then the sky is the limit.
Okay, Anna Kudaneva.
Hello. Hello, everybody. I think, I'm sorry, I would quite like to jump back on the topic which Kamal raised, but first, I would like to say that I am a big admirer of your work, and I think it's super important what you're doing right now. And again, the disadvantage indeed starts from the primary school from the very early age, and I'm a big supporter of the equal education, but it sadly is not possible in the UK. What I have been thinking is that it's not only about the teaching, it's also about the information that the kids have. So it's basically if their parents have been, let's say, blue collar, and nobody went to the university, but the kid is really bright and is achieving in sports. There is nobody there who can tell, look, you can apply for scholarship and you can get into the public school. You can apply for the scholarship for the uni. Like you have this. There's a straight path for you, and it doesn't matter if you don't have money. There are possibilities, and there's no one to tell that. So I was just wondering if your mentoring program is that part is covered. How maybe there's some opportunities to do the same, like come to schools and just tell kids from the disadvantaged background about the opportunities they have, and tell about people who did achieve through these paths.
Yes, absolutely. That is not a core part of our mentoring program, but I do get a lot of requests from head teachers to send senior people from big companies doing various types of careers to come and do career talks. Even though that's not a core part of what our program does, I always connect people and make those things happen, because if there are ways of adding value to people, of course you're going to connect people and help them make it happen. So yeah, we've already had lots of our mentors going to the schools and doing talks.
Okay.
Okay, so we're about 8 minutes off to the end of the meeting. Shannon, I think, is that an old hand? I think that's an old hand.
Oh, yeah. Could you hear me?
Yes, hi. Do you have another question?
Yeah, your experience is really impressed me quite a lot. And it appears to me that the top three important things to success is to first improve my own abilities, and second, keep up with the trends and keep changing. And the third one, adapt to the company and industry's environment. I want to know if these things are really important, and if not, what should I focus more on? And if I learn something popular and profitable like Python, although it's not very relative to my major or job, is it part of keep up with the trend, or is it not? If I should ignore that?
Really good question. My advice, given the questions you've asked, is read the book Spike. I'm going to write it, Spike by René Carayol, because René Carayol is a management guru, and he's a patron of our charity. And he's written a book called The Spike. And it's really important advice for you, particularly given what you said, because following trends can be powerful and dangerous. In my mind, you've got to stick to what you're really naturally good at. I'm never going to be a programmer, because I've seen what good looks like. It's my husband who works in Accenture, and he's a fantastic programmer. So if I can't compete with what he's naturally good at, why should I enter that market, right? So everybody has got a couple of things that they could be the best at. I can guarantee you. I don't care what level of intellect, they could be here, there, or there. The level of intellect really doesn't matter, because everybody has a couple of things that they could be the best at. So the trick is to find what is your gift, and read the book Spike by René Carayol. I've put it in the chat. But as a rule of thumb, I always say, what you love doing is usually what you're good at. But also do a little calculation of, is there a market for it? Is there a market for it? Will I be able to get a job in that field? Does it pay enough so that it satisfies what I feel are my needs? Just some quick checks and balances to make sure that your strategy is right. Another area that I could help with is that I am currently developing what I call diversity accelerators as part of another venture that I didn't tell you about, a social enterprise that I co-founded. So if you have a look at this website and register for my diversity accelerator modules free of charge, then the first module is exactly about finding your strengths. So www.idinclusion.com. So check out our diversity accelerators on this website.
Okay, thank you. Quite
Welcome.
useful.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got the last person who's been very, very patient, and we're ending on her, the last question. Xenia, do you want to come on the mic?
Hi, Elham. Thank you for such an inspiring talk. And the initiative, I resonate with it quite a lot, because I have experienced mentorship for myself when I was in my home country, and I feel like it does make a difference for knowing someone who has been there in your shoes. So just as a question, I wanted to ask you, in your 3-year journey with migrant leaders, what do you feel to be your biggest successes?
Definitely number one is the really powerful stories that have emerged in terms of the impact it has had, the life-changing impact on the mentees. I can share so many stories with you, just beyond belief. Look in our impact report, that's just a handful of the stories, but constantly stories are emerging from the mentees, and how life-changing and transformational being part of the Migrant Leaders Program has been for them. That's got to be the number one thing that I am loving in terms of the success. But after that, the next thing that kind of took me by surprise was the support from the corporates. If I look at the 510 senior people from 95 big companies who became our mentors. I mean, fair enough. I've written to almost 10,000 people, and I've interviewed more than 600 corporate executives in order to recruit those 510 mentors. But the bottom line is, if they were not willing to help, they wouldn't have joined as a mentor. So it's actually credit to the mentors from the corporates and other organizations who are volunteering their valuable time. And also the corporate partners, the Smith & Nephew, Kantar, Anglo American, how early on our journey they sponsored the charity. Really, really important to our success. You've got to often in your journey as a person, as a company, have to think, what are the indicators of success? What are even visible indicators of success? And go after achieving those so that you can communicate some early wins and success to your stakeholder group. Because once you communicate 1 or 2 early wins and success indicators, others will follow you. And I'll forever be grateful to Anglo American for being the first corporate sponsor. Within 6 months of the charity's launch, Anglo American sponsored us, and that made it relatively easier for other corporates to follow. And the same applies to people. Think about what are the indicators of success. When you get your first job as a BA graduate, as a bachelor's or master's or MBA graduate, you get your first job. The indicator of success is how well you land in that job and how quickly you get that first promotion, that first qualification, the first promotion, the first increase in your roles and responsibilities, the first key pivotal project, working for a leadership team member. There are some indicators that say you've really succeeded in that first job. Please, please, please focus in that first 2-3 years in your job and achieve those indicators of success, because it sets you up for the rest of your career.
Great, amazing. Zinia, do you have any further questions?
No, this was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to all who have asked the questions, and thanks to B for assisting with the questions. This has been a really, really great session, Elham. Thank you so much for all the support. Personally, it has really touched me a lot, all the experience that you have been through and your passion, how you have been working through, throughout the day, juggling your corporate job, home with kids. And I can relate to the kids part, definitely. And as well as your migrant leaders, it's amazing. There's so much that we can actually learn from you that a 1 hour session is definitely not enough. And
well, thank you so much. But for what it's worth, the last 3 years, I've learned a ton from younger people than me. The young people have given me a new learning curve, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yes, definitely. So, we really hope that you can actually join us again to actually share more stories. I'm sure you have a lot more that you can offer to us, and everyone here. I'm sure they have been really inspired by your journey, by your initiatives. And thank you so much for joining us today. And to all those who have attended, thank you for your time. And we will be posting a link to the survey. Would appreciate if you could just enlighten us with some of your feedback. Yeah, that would be great.
And I would ask everyone, please do tag migrant leaders. If you make comments in your posts on social media and LinkedIn, please feel free to tag migrant leaders and myself, Elham Fardad, so that I can reshare your comments and posts on social media and LinkedIn. as it really helps spread the word among the student population so that even more young people can benefit from our program.
Yeah, that's great. Yes, do add Elham in LinkedIn as well as follow Migrant Leaders. And I'm sure you will learn a lot from her. And thank you for all the resources that you have shared. I'm sure that's going to be really helpful to all those.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being an amazing audience. I've really loved it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Elham. And thank you, all of you. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend ahead.
Absolutely. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much. Really, really well organized as well. Congratulations.
Thank you, Elham. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
I think everyone's really happy because you have really, shone the light that we don't have to be corporate robots. And I think that's probably why everyone's so touched and so engaged. So thank you so much for your honest and open conversation.
Thank you. No, definitely don't be a corporate robot. Just be the best version of yourself.
Yes, definitely.
I'm just enjoying reading comments, and what a great audience. They were wonderful, asking questions, really sharing their thoughts very freely. What a brilliant audience. You guys have done so well to get everyone together.
Yeah, it has been.
Oh, Chris and Punya, this is a great right now.
Definitely, one thing is Elham is so prompt in her replies. It's getting across to her is so easy. The communication part never had any trouble. So really, kudos to her. And
you see, we have children in common. Having children makes you more responsive because you're used to having your mobile with you anywhere in the house you are, because you have to be alert for the children. So I answer emails everywhere.
Yeah, I relate to that totally.
Exactly. So you know what they say, if you want something done, give it to someone busy.
That's right. And of course my whole social impact club, Chris, Zinia, Everett, all the team members, they have been so helpful. They've been very supportive, and
really great. And Chris did such a good job of sharing the slides, even though I had not indicated in advance which slides. So really, really good job.
It's been amazing, really. Like, I mean, it was kind of a very quick one. Like, we decided on this like last week. So
That's
it
right.
took like a lot of everyone supported in to get this moving, and it was a great session. And this is like our very first session that Social Impact Club has come up with, and it's been a really
I love it. Really, really good. I like the fact that it's focusing on social impact, because these days the lines between a corporate career and social impact, there are no lines.
Yeah.
I hope that in 10 years, 20 years time, people realize that you need to build social impact into the DNA of your corporate career, so that there will be no corporate career where there is zero social impact. And there will be no corporate out there who has no social impact. Wouldn't it be great if it's part of the DNA of all corporates?
Definitely. I think I'm sure definitely in future with all these like initiatives by people like you, we are sure this will social impact. It will not just be like a trend, it will be part of the DNA. So looking forward.
That's wonderful. And it's probably worth asking how you will be sharing the recording of the session, because I can also share that, reshare it, tag it, all sorts of things. If you share it through your LinkedIn, of course, I can reshare it on my LinkedIn so that my network see it as well.
Sure. So